All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Timekeeping Compliance. Now, this class is kind of a spinoff of the one that we did last week in regards to the 1099 employee, W-2 employee actually using subcontractors. So it's about how we need to keep track of the hours worked by both parties. So we'll get started with timekeeping compliance. And disclaimer before we move further, this presentation is not legal, financial, or tax advice. It is not the final word on today's topics, meaning things can change in the future, or the government could come out and say we got to do different ways of doing it. And it is not a political opinion. We never bring that into any of the CEU classes. So really, it has nothing to do with politics, but there are some people that may take it that way, but it is not a political opinion. And before taking any action on the information contained in this presentation, employers or contractors like yourself should review this material with either internal and or external counsel. So if you've got an accountant on retainer, you just may want to ask them a question. They're there for good advice, and I know they're a healthy penny. Charging what they charge. Mine's I think at $300 an hour, but it can save you some money in the long run if there's any issues that would come up. So we will get started with our agenda, and that is going to be tips for timekeeping, how we can do it. A lot of people are old school. They, still track it manually. They may let their employees do it. They may have a clock that people punch in. But a lot of people are actually going, to the cell phone here and having an app on the cell phone that actually tracks it and records it for you. And then we'll talk about what you want to avoid with your timekeeping information. And so that is the agenda or the topics that we will discuss here in the presentation. And so cost of noncompliance. So we're not doing what we're supposed to when it comes to keeping track of employees' time. There can be up to a $2,515 $2,515 in civil monetary penalties per violation, or willful or repeated violations of the minimum wage or overtime pay requirements. Now, I know my guys, they are not going to miss an overtime hour or anything like that. They're going to bring it to my attention real quick. So, but yes, there are going to be some mistakes. Correct them. Take care of it right away. What you don't want to do is make your employees mad at you, because then they will actually, call the labor board and everything else like that. So if there ever is an issue, take care of it right away. Up to $10,000 in potential criminal prosecution for willful violations of the FLSA. And we talked about FSLA in last week's class, in addition to back wages that are due. So you need to pay your people. And there's been many nights, set up, make sure that there is a direct deposit go through so that you can make payroll, or you may have to shift some money. We've all done that when running a business. It's just the way things are. And then bad publicity could damage the business and hurt recruiting and retention. So if people hear about this, that you owe back wages, or you're not paying for overtime the full amount, it is going to spread, and you could lose other good employees and definitely keep people from wanting to work for you. I've heard people speak of Chinese overtime and things like that. That's you can't do that. You've got to pay people that are W-2 employees. You got to pay them that time and a half for their wages. Now, salaried people, people that are top executives or a design professional, anybody that is on salary, they're going to work some hours, maybe over on a week or two, but some of them still may be entitled to receive overtime pay. It just depends. You'd have to go back and check and see how you have them, um, how you have them listed in your books. So they are still entitled to it in certain situations. But our most common errors in timekeeping is poor time record retention. The FLSA requires 3 years. And if you don't do that, you could lose your audit defense. So you're having to keep track of these of these records. Now, that's why I love a payroll system. I can enter the hours worked in our payroll system, and I can go back 3 years. We've had ADP for longer than 3 years, so I can go back 3 years and pull those records and see how many hours per week that a certain employee has worked versus the other employees. It's just good having that. Also, not recording all hours worked is a mistake. So, you may have only wrote them down for 30, may only paid them for 30 when they actually work 40. So those are some of your most common errors. You need to pay for time actually worked. If these guys are in the field 50 hours, you need to pay them for 50 hours. If it's 38, pay for what they actually work. And you need to pay them for training and traveling for business. Those are some errors or mistakes that employers will make when they are on duty, as I call it. If they are actually doing something for the company, whether they're going to receive pesticide credits, where they're going to take the pesticide school through the Department of Ag, or they're going to take their CPP, anything that is helping them and that it'll make your business look better. If it's training and the travel time to and from there, you have to pay them. Now, again, last week we discussed W-2 versus 1099. All of that's going to be different. If you have a 1099 employee, you're not going to be paying them to get trained. This is going to be an actual W-2 employee that is on your payroll, needing extra training, or you're sending them there to get an additional license. Maybe you want to get the general contractor license and you send somebody to take that test and to take that school or training. They would need to be paid for that and all their expenses while they're going, or at least be paid per diem so that they have a set amount that they can use towards it. We're going to jump into our tips for timekeeping. Employers must accurately record the time worked. So whether or not your supervisors or your employees are keeping up with their separate hours, you need to verify this, and you need to make sure that you're receiving the correct amount. That's why I like the apps on the phone. A lot of people are actually using, especially this works, well. They'll have like a invisible fence like around the property. So, like when the guys pull into the shop, they can open the app on their phone, and then they're allowed to punch in. They call it geofencing. So they can't be 5 minutes away. They report there at 7:00 and, at 6:55, they know they're going to be 10 minutes late. They can't go ahead and punch in at that time. They can only punch in when they're actually on your yard or in your office. And that will help you record accurate time start and time stop. So when the times they are there. And then under the Federal Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA again, an employer may round employees' hours to a maximum of 15 minutes. It may be easier. A lot of my guys will come in and, they turn in their time sheets that we punch in to ADP. They'll have 39.26 hours. And I'm like, dude, why are we doing that? I go ahead and round up for them. It's just a little bit easier for me, and there's no questions because they can't do pesticide applications. But boy, when they get that pay stub in their email, they are definitely questioning, making sure that I've paid them for every second that they've worked. So best practices with this: track time to the minute worked. Apply time rounding policies fairly. So if you're going to do it for one, do it for all. Ensure all policies do not consistently round in the company's favor or result in the failure to count all time an employee has actually worked. I'm an honest man. I'm not going to do that. I would never round down. I'm actually going to round up for the guys. They're out working hard. They are. This ain't the most glamorous job in the green industry. So they work hard. They get nasty. It's getting cooler. So they're going to be out some cool nights putting up Christmas lights. I'm going to work in their favor. But please note, some states place additional limits on time rounding or prohibit it completely. So, but I think what they're talking about here is actually kind of rounding down for the guys. Maybe they have, 39 hours and 0.36 hours. They're rounding it down for them. Don't do it. Check all applicable laws and consider consulting legal counsel before implementing a time rounding policy. So you'd want to check with your attorneys. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just checking this, thinking it's somebody trying to get in the class. But again, consider talking to that legal attorney that we pay on retainer. Employees recording time work. Work that time generally includes time spent using technology outside of the traditional workplace. Now, I think this is where a lot of people kind of can go wrong with that, especially, after coming through COVID, where a lot of people did work from home, except the green industry, because we were deemed essential employees. And so we continued to work through COVID at our properties, at our customers' homes. We didn't have that option of actually doing this work from home. But let's say your guys actually get off on Friday afternoons at 3:00. Everything's done. They've turned in their time to get paid, but they go home and they actually have to respond to work email. Or what if they have to access the company network, or they're checking their phone messages? Maybe they had to get home for the kids' baseball game, work's done, everything, but Friday evening after dinner, they're checking phone messages, or they're performing other tasks. This should be paid for. I mean, it really should. Most people, though, they're not going to sweat it. When I teach at the college, I am, a salaried employee of the college. So I don't question anything. If I have to check my email and help my students out on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday morning before church, I'm glad to do that. I get all my notifications on my phone. I'm taking care of my business because the college takes care of me. They do. They're not sweating the small details like that because they know their employees are going to take care of the student. The student is our customer. We're taking care of that. Just like you guys are contractors, you're taking care of your customers. You're probably going to do that. Now, do our spouses, do our families like us doing this stuff probably on the weekends? Some understand, some don't. But nonetheless, you should be compensated or compensating your employees that are actually doing this when it's outside of the traditional workplace. But technically, your salaried employees, they're going to do it anyway. Best practices for employees recording the time work: prohibit work outside of designated work hours and do not allow access, because there will be some people that probably do take advantage of it. They may be checking email and phone calls and they say they work 3 hours where they may only work 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Okay. But to help offset that or prevent it from happening, just don't let it happen. Don't let them access company networks or anything after hours. Ensure non-exempt employees report all time spent working, including time spent checking work email outside of work hours. Again, these are your non-exempt employees. These are people that are hourly. Make sure that they turn that in. And if they can't use the regular timekeeping system to record after hours work, instruct them on how to properly and accurately report these hours. So a lot of people, especially in the bigger companies, you have project managers, that are receiving emails and phone calls from the customers. just because that's who they know to contact at the company. And people get home from work. People are home on weekends. They see their landscape projects taking place. They may have questions. They know they're going to be back at work, or they're traveling for work on Monday, so they need to talk to the landscape company about what it is that they've seen. So your employees that are handling these calls, they need to make sure that they're recording it accurately and that they're getting paid for it. When it comes to training, record all work time. The FLSA and many state laws require employers to pay employees for time actually spent working and other time, such as time spent in training or, again, traveling on business. Maybe you're sending people to a trade show. You know, I've seen you, Mr. Adams, down at the Green and Grow show. If you're taking employees there, you know, they're considered to be on the clock while they're there working. I like my guys going to these things. We took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 employees last year to Equip Expo last year. I had to pay them a week's worth of pay, even though they weren't actually working for me. I did this as a morale booster, as a pep rally for them. I won't ever do it again. They didn't enjoy it as much as I did, but still, we were there. We were at a trade show. There was classes they could take. There was equipment they could test drive. They were being paid while they were there, and their hotel was paid for. Record all work time. Again, ensure you understand the rules on compensable or time that needs to be compensated and has to be paid for. Instruct your employees to record their time accurately to account for this time. Again, most people, though, they're not going to turn in 5 minutes for returning an email. They're just probably not going to do it. It's not worth it for them, especially if they're getting paid good and you're doing other things for them. I think a lot of this has to do with the environment or the culture that the company sets. People are willing to give a little extra and not worry about the small details like that if there is a good culture within the company. They know they're going to be taken care of. They know they're getting their bonuses. They know that when they need time off, that they're going to get it. So they're not going to sweat that. But still, they need to make sure they record it. Breaks are actually work time. This is what's a little crazy. You know, when they take some time off, when they go to the restroom or they sit down for a little bit, it is work time. The FLSA generally requires rest breaks of a short duration to be considered paid work time. The U.S. Department of Labor defines a rest break as a period lasting 20 minutes or less that an employee may spend away from work. That's pretty good time. You know, if you get one in the morning, one in the afternoon, that adds up over a work week. Note, duration is generally the sole factor used when determining whether pay is required, not the reason for the break. So, guys, I understand it. It's hot in the summertime. It gets cold in the winter. It makes you have to go to the bathroom more. You're still dehydrating yourself even in cold weather. So the guys are going to drink their water. They're going to drink their coffee, and they're going to have to go to the bathroom. It's just the way it is. With employees logging and verifying hours at the end of each pay period, require employees to confirm the accuracy of their time records by having them review their time records and verify that the records are accurate. And here, just a daily sheet log for somebody. It's got their name, month and year, the day, date, description, time in, time out, total hours. So easy way for them to keep up with it. I know the guys, even if not using a geofence app, they're recording their hours themselves in their notes on their phone. They're actually keeping track of it. I can ask Caleb where we were at March 26th of 2024. He could literally scroll back in his notes and tell us what house we were at or what we were doing that day. So that helps him keep track of their time and the guys that are actually working with him. Best practices: do not rely on employees' verbal time reports. Require employees to log all hours worked in the designating timekeeping system. For exceptional cases, if you have system outages, create a written verification process that is reviewed and approved by a manager. Now, again, I'm still okay with the paper trail anyway. You just got to track them. You'd want to save them, put them in a file folder, even when you upload it to, if you're using a check writing company or a payroll company like ADP, you still got that written report coming back for you that you can rely on. I know a lot of people do the written parts. The green industry sometimes is not accurately thought of as, using all the technology that is available. I know contractors still that don't use email just because of their age. It's just they weren't used to it. I still know contractors who do handwritten estimates and invoices. Nothing wrong with that. That's just how they do business. And so they're definitely going to keep track of employees' time worked on a paper trail system. But ensure accuracy. Ensure the system updates in real time to reflect any last minute changes such as overtime or corrected entries. If it's on a cloud-based system, it's going to do that. Consider timekeeping systems with the ability to ensure clock ins and clock outs are tied to job sites. This can be geolocation capabilities, and they can help prevent misuse. And so with that geolocation, and if you've got a timekeeping system app that your employees are using, you can set up geolocations for certain job sites, especially if you're having your employees meet at a job site, either because the property is so large and you actually have a satellite office there or satellite facility that parks the mowers and everything needed for that. A lot of companies that are doing these huge retirement facilities or office complexes, they have their employees just go there because they're there 5 days a week. You can set up that geolocation just for that. And note, privacy laws typically require an employer to obtain employee consent before using this technology and to limit the use to work hours. Well, if they're in a geofence, that it's not even going to track or log them or anything if they're not there. So again, kind of hard to determine that, but you wouldn't want to track your location of your employees, a Friday afternoon or Friday evening at 7, 8 o'clock at night, unless they are on the clock for you. Most people aren't going to do that. Consider conducting audits of timekeeping practices on a regular basis. Make sure they're working. Talk to your employees. Again, if they're getting if they're getting less on their paycheck than they think they should get, they're going to let you know, especially my guys. They've got it down to the penny. They know exactly how much tax is going to be taken out and everything. So if there is any mishaps, they're going to be calling me out on it. Training. Train supervisors on applicable laws related to timekeeping, such as what are the overtime requirements? What is the prohibition against off the clock work? Can they do it or do they need to be on the clock? And then ensure all hours of work are recorded and compensated. So train your supervisors, train people that have direct reports underneath them. A crew leader has direct reports. That's going to be their one person or their 2-person crew that goes with them, depending on how many people you send out on job sites. But your crew leader is going to have these direct reports, and they need to know all of this information so that they can spread it down. Train all non-exempt employees on your timekeeping policies. And then train them on using the timekeeping system. Should be a part of your onboarding process. We talked about that last year or last class when we have an onboarding process for our independent contractors, right? So you need to have an onboarding process of your non-exempt W-2 employees on what your policies are and how they are going and what system they are going to use to keep up with their time. And if you ever reclassify an employee from exempt to non-exempt from overtime, make sure you provide them with training on timekeeping policies and practices as well. So what if you do have a crew leader that's being paid hourly and is now worked their way up and switching over to a salaried position? They would need that additional training once that's happened. And so what do you want to avoid with timekeeping? Withholding pay if no timesheet. The FLSA and many state laws require an employer to pay employees for all hours worked on the next regular scheduled payday. Note, this is regardless of whether the employee adhered to company timekeeping procedures. So if they didn't turn in their timesheet, you've still got to pay them. You have to track them down. You do. That happens at the college a lot. They have to track me down for my direct reports. I have to sign off on whether they're salaried and they took time off, or our hourly employees that are there to work in the greenhouse, water our plants, our lab techs that come in and help with the labs we're doing in the landscape classes. These guys and gals have to record their hours in a timekeeping system that can be accessed, off campus. And then I have to go in and approve it. And I usually have to talk to them, say, okay. And then I have to explain why I had people on campus on Saturday and Sunday. But again, we're a horticulture program. We have to have somebody come in and check the watering and make sure that all of our plants in the greenhouses are getting the water that they need and that they're going to be able for us to use in the other labs. Withholding pay if no timesheet. Again, when an employee fails to submit, sign, confirm a timesheet, ask the employee and their supervisor to immediately provide or confirm the hours worked and pay the employee accordingly. You can't just be like, oh, Joe didn't turn in his timesheet, I'm not going to pay him. That's just not how it works. You're going to have to chase them down. And me using ADP, I can't go back and do another payroll. We run payroll every Monday afternoon before 2:00. So I've got an alarm comes on my phone, 12:00. Hey, payroll's due. Takes me all of 30 seconds to log in and type in the hours that I've already gotten from the guys. But if somebody forgets to submit their timesheet to me, what am I going to do? I'm having to track them down. I don't want to pay ADP again to run that payroll a second time. Because they're charging me like $60 some every time I hit submit. So I don't want to have to do that. I want everybody's turned in, and my guys are good about that because they do want to get paid. I don't have to fuss at them too much about doing that. What about unauthorized overtime work? Withholding pay. You can't do that. Employer must pay non-exempt employees for all reported and unreported work hours, even if the work wasn't authorized or scheduled in advance. I've had guys want to stay and change oil and mowers, sharpen blades, do stuff like that. And I didn't know anything about it. And they tell me, and it's like, I've got to pay them. Yeah. Do I want to go and check and make sure that work was done? Yes. But still, you got to pay them. And note that some states may require additional actions, but unauthorized work must be paid as well, too. Best practices for withholding pay for unauthorized work. Have a policy requiring employees to get permission before working overtime or before starting work early or leaving late. Some people like to ride the clock. And so, if they are going to work late or if they are going to come in early, nothing wrong with that. I love the individual who wants to get there 1 hour before everybody else and make sure all the equipment's on the trucks needed, making sure that things are fueled up, making sure, no trash is in the floorboard of the trucks. All of that is good. But they need to have permission to do that. And you need to have it documented that they're doing it. And then note, an employee that violates the policy may receive disciplinary action for failing to get pre-approval, but their pay cannot be withheld. If they were there working, you have to pay them. And I'm a firm believer of that. We have a lot on our plate, guys. Not only are we trying to work and provide for our family, look at the other people that are dependent on us being business owners. They have to feed their family. They have to pay their light bill. And it's a lot of pressure on us. And so I've caught myself thinking, man, I shouldn't have to pay him for that or pay her for this. But in all actuality, I do. When ignoring requirements, some states and local jurisdictions require employers to provide rest breaks. Again, we talked about that. The required breaks can be for all employees, industry specific, or limited to non-exempt employees or minors. You can allow it just to be for those, but pretty much it should be fair enough that it covers all employees. Industry specific, I'm not thinking. I know maybe if you're on a construction site and maybe one of the trades is unionized, they may get certain breaks that maybe some of the other people don't get. And then, yes, if you're using children, they may need a few extra breaks or a little bit more time, and you can limit it just to those guys. Off the clock work, an employer cannot ask or allow non-exempt employees to work off the clock. Best practices for this is ensure that you have a policy that expressly prohibits off-the-clock work and has controls in place to prevent it. Train your managers to spot and respond to potential off-the-clock work. And if employees can't use regular timekeeping system to record after hours work, instruct them on how to promptly and accurately report these hours. Now, probably one thing that I could see in the green industry, whether we're irrigation, whether we're landscape, is when we have a snow event and we're working through the night. And so maybe our regular timekeeping system only records, daytime hours or whatever. How are we going to keep track of the hours for the guys shoveling sidewalks or the ones in the skid steer or plow trucks? You got to have a way to ensure that all of those hours get recorded, not only for payroll, but also for billing. If your guys are working 30 hours over the weekend shoveling sidewalks, you want to make sure that you're billing the customers for 30 hours of sidewalk work. With auto-populated entries, these are auto-filled time entries that can lead to inaccurate records when employee schedules vary or employees work late. Employees skip or shorten meal periods. Now think about that. I want my guys to take the full hour because they are. I don't like it when they say, man, I only took 30 minutes for lunch. If I wasn't there, I have to trust them, because I didn't track that. I probably need to track it, and I can. I do have a way to see how long that truck was parked at a certain spot, but I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, but I'm telling them, guys, you're going to take an hour lunch. That's just the way it is. And that includes, if you're at a job site and you've got to drive down to McDonald's that's 5 minutes away, that 5 minutes is within that hour. Employee work time includes compensatable pre-shift activities, post-shift activities, and or non-productive time. And think about that. Again, let's think back to snow removal. that's going to be some pre-shift activities. You got your guys coming in at 8 p.m. because the storm's going to start in a couple hours overnight, and so you're going out pre-salting, and you've got your plows ready to go. You may have these guys come in a little bit early to make sure everything is prepped and ready to go. If it's post shift, what if you got to clean out your salt spreaders and everything like that, and get stuff back inside and out of the inclement weather? You got 2 or 3 guys staying after to help you do that. That is compensated time. And under federal law, time spent on pre-shift or post-shift activities must be counted as hours worked, even if it is an integral and indispensable part of an employee's principal work. Example, putting on and taking off required safety gear. So I didn't even think about that. You're a lawn care company, and your guys need to come in and get suited up. They need to put on their Tyvek suit. They need to put on their rubber boots. They're mixing their liquids, so they're putting on their PPE. All of that is time that they will be paid for. With the auto-populated entries, again, best practices: consult legal counsel if they have employees who perform pre-shift or post-shift activities. Determine if it is compensated or not. Require all non-exempt employees to clock in and clock out each day. And review and confirm time logs at the end of each payroll period. And it just depends. Who's doing that for you? Is it your spouse? Is it your office manager or your secretary? Are they the ones keeping up with that? Just make sure that it does get reviewed and that it does get marked off. Hey, this is right. This is correct. Meal period. Time records should accurately reflect that the time or that the employee took a meal period, how long the meal period lasted, and the actual hours worked in. Some states have a meal period record keeping requirement, and automatic deductions may violate these requirements. Check your state law for compliance. So and I understand this, there may be times that they only took 45 minutes. They feel like they should, get paid for the 15 minutes that they didn't take for lunch. Okay, no big deal. Also, if their lunch runs late because the food wasn't delivered fast enough and they have an hour for lunch, which includes their travel time, what if they're there an hour and 20 minutes? We need to record that. And, they think they should get paid for that 20 minutes, but no, it is considered part of their lunch.
So do you have to take a lunch time period?
Yes, and I think if
I pay my guys to take their lunch and just keep going.
Oh, so you just pay them through?
Yeah.
Yeah, then you're fine. Yeah, I mean, you are required to let them have a lunch. But you don't necessarily have to pay them for it. But I mean, you're a good guy if you're doing that. Well, they taking 30 minutes?
Well, it's whatever. They get something to eat and go. I mean, they don't
okay.
stop.
They don't stop. They just grab and go.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I just pay them for whatever.
So you don't think you can't require them to take an hour lunch?
I don't know.
I don't think you have to require. I think you have to at least give them 30 minutes if they've worked so many hours.
Okay.
Now, if they choose
job to job, is that not time resting?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're going job to job and they through McDonald's drive-through and it's 20 minutes between job sites or whatever, I guess that would be considered. But you're paying them if they're riding anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, right. But I mean, they're resting, so eat while you're riding.
Yeah.
And that may be why, I don't know, but that's just the way I've always done it.
Always done it, yeah. Let's see. Is lunch required for 8-hour day?
Now, if we're, when we were doing landscape jobs, I would take them to lunch. Because to me, that's different. You're on a job for 8 hours. You're going to stop and eat.
You are, yeah.
But I still pay them.
Says in general, lunch is not required by federal law for an 8-hour workday. However, many states have specific regulations that may mandate meals. Mandate the meal break, especially for longer shifts. For example, some states require a 30-minute unpaid meal break for employees working more than 5 or 6 consecutive hours. It's important to check your local laws for that. So that just, again, goes state by state, and that's from northcarolina.gov. So not necessarily. So,
So I mean,
you're paying them anyway. So
yeah.
Yeah, they're getting a pretty good deal, man. Getting paid to eat.
Yeah.
But like you said, your job. I mean, you're moving from job to job to job to job.
Yeah, we do about 12 to 15 a day.
Yeah. So they're getting rest breaks in between, but other than the driver who's driving the truck. So
yeah.
Well, cool. Good deal, man. A lot of people don't do that.
Well, I mean, it's easier that way. You know what they do, what their day is.
Yeah.
You don't have to think about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you ain't got to. How much did you take for lunch? Well, I sat here for 10 minutes, or I sat there for 20 minutes, and they sat there for 45.
Yeah.
This just, they end up going and eating and going.
Yeah.
So they don't say, well, I've got to take a lunch. I see guys sitting on the side of the road with these big companies and come back 2 hours later and they're still sitting there.
Yeah. And they're probably waiting on the supervisor who drove 30 minutes to his favorite restaurant, sits there an hour, and then drives 30 minutes back.
Exactly. So
that's what I
don't want no part of that.
Yeah. Yeah, my guys will be like, because I'll catch them. They'll be up in Tobacco, a little community called Tobacco, and they'll drive all the way across to Clemens to eat. Well, man, I just felt like getting pizza today out there. No, it don't work like that, buddy.
No. Now, if you're landscaping in one spot, I understand going to get something to eat.
Yeah.
And I used to do when we was doing it, the guys, I'd take them to lunch and go back, pay them the whole way.
Yeah. And more likely paid for their lunch.
Yeah. And that was just a kind of a thank you,
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that I don't do landscaping anymore, because I'd probably be in trouble for all the stuff we did. But we required our guys to bring their lunch.
Yeah.
Well, I do too, but we still, if they don't have it, we'd stop and get it.
Yeah.
It's not going to, it's going to be on the route. You're not going to go all the way back across town to get something.
Yeah.
Well, when we were landscaping, it was impossible to give anybody a reasonable lunch break if they had to leave and go to McDonald's and get food and bring it back with the traffic and Cary and Raleigh and all these other places. You couldn't do it. You couldn't get a break.
You can't.
Yeah.
So we provided microwaves, and we told everybody they had to bring their lunch, and that they got an hour for lunch, but they had to bring it. And if they didn't bring it, that we weren't furnishing them a vehicle to go get it. And it worked for years.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Bill, you do what? Mainly nursery work now?
Yeah. Nursery and sod farm now. Yeah.
Okay. And so they're coming to your place of work, and so they can punch in and out. Do you let your guys leave now and go get lunch, or do you still require them to
no,
eat
they
there?
can. We give everybody an hour for lunch, and they can come. We do have what we call the cantina. We've got a break room, a big, large break room with 6 microwaves in it, and they can go in there and they can fix their lunch or whatever. But if they choose to leave, they can. But we did go to that geo tracking type deal, so they clock in and clock out for lunch. So if they take an hour and 10 minutes, I don't fuss, because they can't really fudge it. When they clock out, they're typically on property, and when they clock in, they have to be on property. So, you got that geofence worked out. So it's a lot easier now. We didn't have the technology years ago to be able to really do it at the job site, but, it works out great now. But
Well, cool. Well, good deal.
When you get a lot more employees, you don't want to pay them either. If you got 5 to 10 employees, you don't want to pay them for that hour. That's a lot of hours a day.
Yeah. Well, back in the day, we had 138 employees, and no, you didn't want to pay an extra hour a day for lunch.
And you're still living?
Yeah. Yeah.
And Bill, you didn't want to pay them an extra 5 minutes when you had 138 employees.
No.
No,
It,
not really, not at all.
it,
That
it,
was large. That's the largest expense we had was payroll,
oh yeah.
without question.
Yep. So, all right. Well, here it's still talking some meal period automatic deductions, the best practices for it. Require the employees to clock out and back in for their meal periods to help ensure employees are paid for missed lunch breaks, and then account for times when employees return from lunch late. But Bill, I think you got a great. Both of you guys have great ideas handling this. They clock in and out there, Bill, with you, and then you're just paying them through, Chris, and that's a pretty good deal they got, my friend.
Yeah, but I don't have 20 employees either.
Yeah.
It's a big difference. The bigger you get,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
you'd have to change things, but I don't have it 3, so I'm okay.
Yeah. And I think, a lot of people would appreciate, hey, if I'm getting paid straight through and the boss says that I can run through McDonald's, or if I bring my lunch and I'm eating, in between routes or stops, that they would be. I'd much rather skip lunch and eat like that and be able to get done quicker and go home.
That's my
That's
thoughts.
Right.
That's the difference, getting off at 3:30, 4 o'clock versus 5:30. I would skip that lunch to go home early and make sure my stuff is done.
Yeah. You're still getting the same hours.
Yeah, exactly.
You're just
Exactly.
getting paid straight through, and that's one thing you don't have to keep up with.
Yeah.
I mean,
And,
if they take 20, 30 minutes, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Just eat and go.
Yeah,
No
exactly. Some of these sit down restaurants, so the guys eat too much, they get sluggish, they get
And they don't want to
tired.
work.
Yeah, they don't want to work after they eat a heavy load. So that
Well,
light
I'll tell
sandwich.
you, the landscape boys, they would take as soon as they would warm up their food in the microwave and they'd eat, they would be laying in the garage somewhere taking a nap. I mean,
Yeah.
and then after lunch, that was it. So we tried to start early, and then we tried to break about 3:30. It was time to start heading home. Missed the traffic. If you could get them there at 6:30, that was the deal. With 6:30 to 3:30 was the day. We missed the traffic getting there in the morning time and get them home a little bit early, and it seemed to work really, really well. But
Yep.
I
we
worked in
couldn't.
Cary. If we didn't leave by 4 o'clock, we stayed till 6.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just well, and both of you guys are around Raleigh, aren't you?
Yeah.
Well, I'm in Elon, but I used to work a lot in Raleigh.
Okay.
I still work 1 day a week there now.
Okay. That's still a pretty good little drive from Elon.
Yeah, but they pay me well, so I do it.
You do it. Okay.
Yeah. They pay. I mean, people say, why you go that far? I said, well, they pay good. So what do you do?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You go.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, could I make more here? Possibly. But I work for them here and there. So it's 2 places that I do for them.
Yeah. So you about have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you don't want to lose the one you got in your back door. So,
exactly.
So, yeah. And if you go there and you spend it all day there in Raleigh, like at the one site?
No, I'm there half a day and I'm gone, but I get paid for a whole day.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's why it's worth it to me to do it.
Yeah. 100%, dude. Yeah. No questions asked.
And I pick up 3 or 4 on the way home, and I'm knocking a home run way I look at it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. I agree with you, man. Cool deal.
Guaranteed money.
Yeah. All right. We got just a few more slides. But under FLSA, a meal period to be unpaid generally must be at least 30 minutes without interruption. The employee must be fully relieved of all duties for the purpose of eating regular meals. Some states have additional requirements. Uninterrupted, or how do you uninterrupted meals. If an employee's meal is interrupted, including requiring them to be available to work if needing during their meal period, pay the employee for the full meal period, or allow them to continue their meal period for a full 30 minutes following the interruption. So, phone call, if there is a major project they're working on, but that's again going to be like your managerial type positions. But even on a construction site, though, there's a water leak in the irrigation. The guys have to stop eating to go turn that off. You got to give them that additional 30 minutes. Best practices for this: instruct employees to report interrupted meal periods so they can be paid for the time. And note, at least 2 states, California and Washington, require premium pay for employees with interrupted or otherwise non-compliant meal periods. So they're probably getting just a little bit more. Neglecting your record keeping. Retain payroll records, including hours worked each day and the total hours each week work for a period of 3 years. Best practices: ensure your business is adhering to all record keeping requirements. Check your state law for additional record keeping requirements. Key takeaways: develop policies and procedures to ensure you keep accurate time records for all non-exempt employees. Require employees to review their time records at the end of each pay period and verify that they're accurate. And ensure employees are paid for all of the time that must be compensated under federal, state, and or local laws. Automation, time and scheduling, reduce manual data entry, improve payroll accuracy, and increase productivity. Keep compliant with built-in guardrails that properly classify workers, plus enjoy automatic overtime calculations based on state, paid time off, sick leave, compliance, and meal breaks. Manage costs by monitoring hours worked with overtime and access job costing tools that save you time when tracking job and project labors. Reduce manual data entry, improve payroll accuracy, and increase productivity. Get clear visibility into schedules, shifts, who's working and when, and if they're late or absent. Simplify payroll with complete punch to paycheck experience. And enjoy multiple timekeeping clocking options, including via desktop, shared tablet, dedicated kiosk, smartphone, or traditional time clock. Now it's time for Q&A, if there is any. But we had some good conversation during the course. Any comments? Complaints? Making fun of me?
It's all good.
Well, good deal.